You are welcome to another biology class. We are looking at soil again. In our previous study on soil, we have looked at the definition of soil as the upper layer of the earth surface which supports plants' growth. We looked at the various components of the soil or the composition of the soil. We saw that what makes up the soil includes soil particles, soil air, soil water, soil organisms, and humus content. We rounded up that class by looking at the importance of each component of the soil. And for this class, we are going to take a step further as we look at characteristics of soil, which includes color, texture, structure, and constituents. Then we'll also look at the types of soils. Then we are going to start by looking at characteristics of soil. The common features of soil are color, texture, structure, and soil constituents. Then soil color. The color of any particular soil depends on its constituents. Number one, soil rich in organic matter is usually dark in color. So when a soil is dark in color, it shows that it's likely that soil is rich in organic matter. Wet soils usually appear darker than dry soil. When the moisture content of soil is much, that soil tends to look darker than dry soil. Yellow or red soil indicate the presence of ferric iron oxides. Yellow or red soil indicates the presence of ferric iron oxides. Then we want to note that soil may also be gray, brown, white in color, depending on the prevailing materials in the soil. Then we look at soil texture. What is the meaning of soil texture? This refers to the portion of each type of these soil particles. Now, the proportion of each type of soil particles determine the soil texture. And what are these soil, particles? We have sand, silt, and clay. So the three types of soil particles are sand, silt, and clay. Now the proportion of each type of soil particles determine the texture of the soil. When you look at the table below, you see it's a table of soil particles and the size of the particle. Now, stone or gravel has diameter that is above 2 millimeters. Now, coarse sand has diameter between 2 millimeter and 0.2 millimeter. Then fine sand has a diameter of 0.2 to 0.02 millimeter. Then silt is finer, has diameter of between 0.02 to 0.002 millimeter. Then clay, which is the finest soil particle, is less than 0.002 millimeter in diameter. So the proportion of these particles determine the texture of the soil. Now, the constituents of soil we have discussed in the first class. Now we come to the types of soil. There are three main types of soil based on their structure. These are sandy soil, clay soil, and loamy soil. These are the three main types of soil, and this classification is based on the structure of the soil. Now let's go ahead and look at the soil structure. Now this refers to the arrangement of soil particles to form aggregates. One, loose soil has wider pore spaces between aggregates. Therefore, water and air can enter easily. Now, when we say a soil is loose soil is a type of soil that has wider pore spaces, which will make it to allow water and air to enter easily. For example, sandy soil has wide pore spaces and it allows water and air to pass easily. Now there are soils that are heavy. Heavy soils with tightly packed particles cannot allow air and water to enter easily. So in other words, a soil that has tightly packed particles and cannot allow air and water to enter easily is said to be heavy. We call such soils heavy soils. Structurally, they are heavy soils. Example is the clay soil. Now, thirdly, we look at loamy soil. Loamy soil has adequate proportion of sand, clay, and high quantity of humus. It has moderate pore space for air and water to reach plant roots. Therefore, it is the best soil for agriculture. Now, loamy soil has specific characteristics. It has adequate proportion of sand, clay, and it has high quantity of humus with moderate pore spaces for air and water to reach the root of plants. So, the loamy soil is considered the best soil for agriculture. Now, we take a look at these types of soil one after the other, and we look at their characteristics. Now, let's start by looking at sandy soil. Sand particles are sharp to feel when rubbed between palms or fingers. Sand has loose particles and large pore spaces, just as we said before now. Sand particles are light and easily carried by wind and erosion. They have light particles. Sand has low capacity to retain water. Even though it has large pore spaces, you need to note that the pore spaces, because the particles are loosely packed, they give room for entrance of water and the exit of water, so they can't retain water. Has low capacity to retain water. Now, sand is easily heated by the sun. It is easily heated by the sun, and it is therefore not a fertile soil for agricultural purposes. It is not fertile soil for agricultural purposes. Now, we go ahead from characteristics of sandy soil to that of the clay soil. Now, clay particles are very fine. Clay particles are very, fine and smooth to feel when rubbed between fingers, in contrast to what we have in sand. When sand particles are rubbed between palms or fingers, they are very harsh. They are very sharp. But this one is smooth. That of clay soil is smooth. Now, 2, they are sticky when wet and it can be molded into shapes. Of course, the clay soil is sticky. It has plastic nature, and those who molds images, who molds pots, they use this type of soil for such purposes. Now, it becomes hard when dry. When clay soil becomes dry, they are hard. Unlike sandy soil. Sandy soil is not hard when it is dry. Now, 4, clay particles are tightly packed and has tiny pore spaces. It can retain much water. So because the particles are tightly packed and the pore spaces are tiny, it can retain much water, even though it has a limited or low ability to allow water to pass through it. Number 5, clay soil is poorly aerated. Aeration has to do with the ease with which air enters the soil. Now, clay soil is poorly aerated. Clay soil is poorly aerated. That means it doesn't allow much air to enter into it. Now, point number 6, clay soil is easily waterlogged. I've said it. It does not easily allow water to enter. When water enters, it has a high water retentive ability. It retains water and it is easily waterlogged. It is easily waterlogged. It retains water and it is easily waterlogged. These are the characteristics of clay soil.